we don't know what the goal is and we don't know who the enemy is.
Woo.
Right? So when the goal is worldly success, the enemy is other churches. Because I got to beat you, I got to be better than you. When you succeed and I fail, even those words, success and failure, are the wrong words.
Yep.
But when obedience is the goal, when obedience is what defines success, then you winning is me winning.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a choice that we make. And nothing in society helps us. Everything's up and to the right. Everything's growth, even in the church world, in denominations and in leadership, you're celebrated for growing your church.
Yep.
When we do a lot of church planting, one of the things the Lord said to us in the church planting journey is, would you be obedient and plant churches even if Ransom never grew again? And we had to go, yeah, because kingdom over castle.
Hey crew, it's Adam and Emily, and you're listening to The Conversation. Today we have episode 297 for you. We're getting closer to that 300 mark, and to celebrate the wonderful 300, we talked about this previously, but another reminder, we are going to be doing a 300 episodes giveaway.
Let's go.
So what that consists of, to celebrate 300 episodes, 6 years of doing the podcast?
Yeah, I can't believe how long it's been. 300 episodes.
Yeah, that's a lot of talking.
It is. What is the giveaway?
So what we're giving away is $300, but there's going to be 3 different winners. So 3 winners, each getting $100 to a place of your choice. So somewhere you like to shop, somewhere you like to eat, somewhere you like to spend your money.
You pick it, we buy the gift card.
Absolutely.
It's awesome. To enter for a chance to win that, you need to do 2 things. First off, go to my YouTube channel, Adam A. Weber, and subscribe. So do that. And then the second thing, leave an honest review. Go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave an honest review. It can be 1 word, it could be a sentence. And then after you do those 2 things, just let me know. If you're on my email list, just reply and say done. Just comment on something in my social post, done. However you can get in contact with me, just tell me the word done, and you'll be entered for a chance to win. There is an amazing opportunity chance for you.
Right in front of you. It's
dangling
right
just
there.
Just do those 2 things. Let us know. We're good to go.
Yes. We can't do these things without our wonderful partners that we have for the conversation. Adam, who do we got today?
Yeah, I just am so honored. Our first partner is the International Justice Mission, and IJM is an amazing global nonprofit working to end slavery and violence around the world, and they focus on the most vulnerable people, which is people who are experiencing poverty. So I took a trip with IJM just a couple of months ago, went to Kenya, saw the work they were doing when it comes to sexual violence and also wrongful imprisonment, to see the work that they're doing and to see the thousands of people that they've helped rescue. It's incredible. I want to encourage you, go to ijm.org and become a Freedom Partner, which is just a person who gives on a monthly basis to the work that IJM is doing. My wife and I were both Freedom Partners. I can't encourage you enough to consider it. Again, ijm.org. And our second partner is Vern ID Mitsubishi. Vern ID Motor Cars is a faith-based, growing company that strives to deliver dreams and transform lives. And they sell tractors, they sell boats, they sell cars, they sell basically you name the make a vehicle and they have it. But there's so much more than that. They're a company that just loves to give back to their community, loves to give back to others. The more I find out about Vern ID, the more proud I am that I've purchased my last 3 vehicles from Vern ID. And so if you are looking for a vehicle like an Outlander, like I drive and love, or if you're looking for a brand new Honda CR-V that my wife has been trying to convince me to purchase for her, no matter what kind of vehicle, go visit vernid.com.
Love it. Today you had on Phill.
Yes.
Phill Tague.
Yes.
Really cool conversation that you had with Phill.
I love Phill.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Phill is the lead pastor at one of the other major churches. I don't know if that's weird to say, other major churches in Sioux Falls. And he's become a dear friend of mine. So I just love Phill so much. But 2 pastors being friends in the same community is not a normal thing. That sounds normal. To translate it, if you're not in ministry, that'd be like you being friends with your competitor. It's like, well, I don't want to be friends with them. We're trying to get their business. Now, the church is not trying to get someone else's business, but it can often have that same feel, and sadly that's true. And so we just talk honestly and candidly about our friendship, how we're able to kind of fight against that territorial aspect of how churches are just sometimes really, really stupid together. We also talk about his new book, which I'm so excited about. But I just feel like this will be refreshing and challenging if you have a competitive spirit, like in a negative way, with another church, with another business, with another organization.
Yeah.
And so I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. How uncommon is this often? Two pastors.
Too uncommon.
Yeah, two pastors in the same town actually hanging out.
Yeah.
Why is that uncommon? Why would you say that's uncommon? And then I'll give you my thoughts on why it's uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to we don't know what the goal is, and we don't know who the enemy is.
Woo.
Right? So when the goal is worldly success, the enemy is other churches. Because I got to beat you, I got to be better than you. When you succeed and I fail, even those words, success and failure, are the wrong words.
Yep.
But when obedience is the goal, when obedience is what defines success, then you winning is me winning.
Yeah.
Right? And that's a choice that we make. And nothing in society helps us. Everything's up and to the right. Everything's growth, even in the church world, in denominations and in leadership. You're celebrated for growing your church.
Yep.
When we do a lot of church planting, one of the things the Lord said to us in the church planting journey is, would you be obedient and plant churches even if Ransom never grew again? And we had to go, yeah, because kingdom over castle.
Yeah.
Kingdom over castle. And so I think that's why it's rare. I think those who are not growing feel like they're failing.
Yeah.
And don't know how to navigate that space. And those who are growing feel like they have to maintain it in order for something to be true about them. But like if Embrace suddenly got cut in half, everything that's true about Embrace would still be true. But it doesn't feel that way, does it?
It doesn't.
And so I think that's where it becomes a competition unless we choose to circumvent and overcome that.
And I want to make sure I say this. This happening is so much more you than me. Like just to give you total credit, it's been you pursuing friendship with me over the years. It's been you reaching out to me in a season where I was really embarrassed and didn't want to talk to anybody, specifically pastors, because I felt like such a failure.
Yeah.
This is so much you. And I told you before we started recording, we're getting together with a group of pastors later today, Phill and I, from around town, because of you, not because of me. As far as like, is this earlier on in ministry, would you have struggled with the competition?
Oh, 100%.
What does that look like for you?
100%. Yeah. I mean, so I had a district superintendent who I love, and he's a mentor of mine to this day, but he was doing what district superintendents are supposed to do and challenge you to, grow your churches and chase the next thing. And I did. And I'm driven, and I'm a Enneagram 3. I'm going to get after it. And so I was going to succeed, and I did. And we were, multiple, several thousand people, multiple campuses, the whole deal. And I woke up one day and I went, I'm unhappy. I'm missing something in my calling. And I said to my wife, if 2 years from now we're just a bigger version of the same church, I'm out. I'm out of ministry. This cannot be all there is. And in that space is where the Lord started dealing with me. But yeah, I was completely caught up in that. I wanted to, we would go to district conference, and the first thing you do is grab the book and look for your chart and where you are on the lists, and if you're top 5 or top 3 or whatever. Yeah. And man, I just remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, you're performing for a group of a couple hundred pastors in a room one time a year. That seems like a really small audience.
Oh my gosh.
And I was done at that point. I just said, okay, whatever obedience looks like, I'm in. I'm all in. And just started chasing that instead. And that really set me free to, when the church grows, he gets the credit.
Yeah.
And when the church isn't growing, I can go, was I obedient? And if I can do that, I can lay my head on my pillow, and it doesn't matter how bad the day was or how many people left or came or whatever. It's not my identity's not caught up in that.
That's so cool. just for me to answer it, like it is uncommon for me to connect with other pastors. I think first off, something I've shared often is I often don't feel like a pastor. I feel more like a kind of an entrepreneur type
I think
person.
that's why we get along.
Yeah, because I really usually a lot of pastors are really weird and bizarre. So I'm like, I don't know if I like. So I think naturally that's probably a part of it, is just feeling that. But then I'm an Enneagram 3 too, and so how Satan has often stole my joy is comparison. And what's horrible with that drug of choice is social media. It's not just the church across town.
Right.
It's the church across the country,
right.
across the globe,
right.
you know? And so it's like, oh man, we've this many decisions for Christ, even something amazing. And then you see another church that's got more decisions for Christ than all of Sioux Falls.
I mean, I still felt it on Easter, you know, like as much as God is and has been delivering me from that mindset, you still see, 19 salvations, 25 salvations, 100 salvations, and you go, we didn't have that many. We only had X, and instead of celebrating the number you had, you compare. And that every time that comes up, man, that's a moment to just go, what am I going to do? Am I going to celebrate the kingdom, or am I going to mourn that my castle is not more full?
Something that's been super helpful, I feel like even in our relationship, is both on a low, when I went through a really hard season, and then a couple of years later, you went through a more challenging season. I feel like what's been so cool is just you and I connecting, however often it is, and just being so honest with each other. Again, Phil, you've modeled that with me, as far as like, hey, I just need to acknowledge something, or I'm just feeling this, and then giving me permission to share the same thing of like, this is really hard. Even just walking into this space. So we are in our Embraces Westside campus, is formerly the Ransom's Westside campus.
Yep.
And just even like processing that. And yet, like, I can remember when I moved into this office over here, the day I moved in, it was like the Lord almost brought me to my knees. This is your office for a little while. And it's like, a little while? I hope we don't go anywhere in a little while. Right. And it was just like, no, it's yours for a little while. And then it'll either be the next pastor of Embrace, or maybe even better, another church.
Yep.
Thoughts on that, Phil? Like what's, like, I don't even know what I'm asking here, but like, that's been such a gift to process the real honest feelings with another brother that I trust.
Yeah.
And it's even, I told you this last time, it's the reason that I wanted to be a part of the pastors group later today.
For sure.
It's because I just trust you so much.
For sure. Yeah. And someone, when we first started hanging out, someone asked, what's it like to hang out with Adam Weber?
Oh, geez. I got words.
Well, yeah.
Emily,
filter. No, I actually said, it's so great to sit in a space. I said, literally, when Adam and I get together, the first 5 minutes is just us looking at each other going, yeah, me too. We haven't even said anything yet. And we're like, yeah, I get that. And so it's just been such a cool, safe space. But as far as like this building, again, we were chasing that dream, and, COVID happened. COVID did different things to different churches. Some grew, some didn't. For us, we made, it was the timing of a couple of strategic decisions that people didn't like at a time when, if people didn't like something, they could just leave. And that's, we saw a season of that at the time felt like incredibly painful, and now just feels like pruning. And
that's a shift I felt.
Just a beautiful, because, and not pruning bad people or pruning, but pruning for the purpose that God had for us.
Yeah.
The purpose he had for us was always church planting, and then we grew fast and didn't church plant at first. And so when we started leaning into that, literally that became a decision for us where we had to make a decision, do we keep this location, or do we keep funding our church planting network that we started? We have to give up one. That's just the reality of it. And it was very clear as we prayed and discerned, we're supposed to choose church planting. So at the time, it felt so painful. And I remember saying to you, the day that we signed the papers, I drove away, and the enemy said, this is an exclamation point on your failure. Ugh. Which is a statement that can only come from the enemy. But I also told you that from the day we signed the papers, everything at Ransom has been exploding, healthy, growing, including our church planting efforts, And so since 2018, the Awaken Network that we started, not the one with John Tyson, by the way, the Awaken Network has planted, trained 29 planters, planted 17 churches since 2018, and raised about $500,000 for church planting, and brought in over 20 partner churches, partner districts. And so now it's outgrown Ransom, and we've been able to kind of give it away. And now we're going, okay, well, what churches are we going to plant again? And I couldn't have done that if we still had this building. So for me, this was a stewardship thing. Phill, it's yours for a season. And the way that whole thing went down, because you got this building, we got the church plant and remodel our building, and C6 Church got your old space. And so it's like kingdom win, kingdom win, kingdom win. That's what happens when this ceases being a competition.
Phill, and again, this is like so, to even ask you about that in private and then to ask you here, like, I feel like it's so holy. So I wanted to ask that, but here's what I really want to get to. For the person, when we closed our downtown campus at the Pavilion, someone just brought it up last week. I could get to the Pavilion in 90 seconds from my house.
Right.
I mean, downtown Sioux Falls is like my backyard. Like that's my guy where I love that campus. And now it doesn't exist. So someone last week, does that still exist?
Right.
And immediately at first I was like, like I was like, it does. And internally I'm like, no, and I wanted to.
Right.
What would you say to the person who is at that place right now of something didn't go as planned? Like any wisdom that you're like, here's what was helpful for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think first off, we have to remember we can make our plans, but the Lord's plans prevail.
It's not true.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like that. Often I don't.
I got great plans.
I think my plans are great. I think they're great plans. And I still have that. And so I would say, first off, when you feel that, it's okay. You're human, right? I still am human. And I mean, I just had somebody last week say, "Oh, Ransom Church, I've heard of you. You've got like a couple locations in town, don't you?" And in my brain, I'm going, well, not anymore. And I have to convince myself that telling them our story isn't an excuse.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's actually our story. It's what we were called to do. It's obedience. But it feels like I'm making excuses. And so I would just say, when you feel that, just give yourself some grace because you're human. But I would also say that we have to get out of our mindset that trying and failing is failing, right? Not trying is failing. Yeah. Trying and failing and learning and growing. Failure can stay there. Failure can be final, or it can be an opportunity. Like, had we not done the campuses, we wouldn't have learned the lessons we did that put us on the trajectory we're at now. Yeah. Had we not succeeded and then had to give something up that we cared about, we wouldn't value what we have to such a deep level. And so I would just say, you can't even succeed without failure. So if you don't do things because you're afraid to fail, you'll never do anything.
That's good. And there's so many places, like basically I hope the theme is Phill is the wise one and I'm the one trying to learn from him in this relationship. How have you fought against not connecting with other pastors? Like, this is so uncommon. It's your fault in the best way that it has happened. What else have you done to fight against that? Like, is there any and that's true for a person listening. That's like, it's the other business in town that I'm supposed to demonize.
Right.
No, it's not.
No.
Like what would you say to that? Like, what have you done to fight against that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I used to go to, there's some ministerial things in town, and I used to go to it, and it never felt right, because it felt like pastors who knew they were supposed to be in a room together and so did, but even the speakers were like, here's what we're doing great, and it deflates in the whole room, and because it just had that competition vibe to it, one more room to try to prove myself in, and I didn't want to play that game, and so I just started going, okay, Lord, give me opportunities for relationships. So like one of the guys, Jason, that's in our pastors group, I know a pastor in our denomination from out northwest who went to seminary with Jason. And when Jason was coming to town, he said, "Hey, I want to connect you with this guy."
Whoa. I
had lunch with him and we clicked. And we're very different backgrounds. He's Lutheran, I'm Wesleyan, but man, there was a kindred spirit for our city, kindred spirit for ministry. And I went, I got to do something with that. So then when I was in a cohort with New Thing and they were just challenging us to think about reaching your city and like what would happen if it didn't matter to the churches in town who got the credit. Yeah. That's where I just felt like I need to start this group. And I just asked the guys who I have a relationship with. Kevin, I've known as a show choir dad, and a friend. I know Quentin I've connected with really well. And so it's just guys that I went, yeah, our hearts beat the same. And so if we can get together and we can remove the things like economics and ego from the equation, and we can just go, what do we, I mean, like I said the first time we met, if all we do is get together across denominational lines and pray for our city and not each of our churches, that's a kingdom win. And so, so I'm just leaning into the relational side of I'm becoming friends with people who are pastors, not going to pastors' things.
That's good. Well, just to toot your horn again, it says a ton because I didn't even really know that I was showing up through that first time, nor did anybody else in the group. And we showed up because
I didn't know what we were. I didn't know what you were showing up.
We showed up because of you. We showed up because we showed up because of the person that you've consistently been to each of us. And I even highlight this too. It's one thing to connect with a group of pastors who are maybe more similar in some ways, like Embrace and Ransom. Yeah. But I even think it's even more uncommon in some different ways, like a Wesleyan and a Lutheran. Yeah. What do they have in common? Aren't they supposed to disagree with each other?
The answer is Jesus and not a whole lot else. But but yeah, I mean, and that really challenges because I care about my theology. You care about your theology. Yeah. That matters. That's why we're part of the organizations that we're a part of, but at the same time, I care about the kingdom more. Yeah. And can I celebrate a baptism at somebody else's church? Even if it's a denomination that's different than mine, a theology that's different than mine. We're very pro women in ministry. Some theologies are not. If a church that's not pro women in ministry has salvations and people start going there, am I excited?
That's so good.
And so we've made it a practice for about 10 years now when we find out people left our church of saying, can we help you find the right fit for you? Like, what's the right fit? What are you looking for? Oh, and so I can't even do that with people unless I know the pastors in town and have a connecting point that I trust across denominational lines.
Ugh. You just said so many things. Even like, I think even the difference of essentials and non-essentials and like, hey, like, do we have some differences? Absolutely, theologically, but a win is a win for the kingdom. And being able to see that, I think in some ways when I first started, I probably wouldn't have felt that way. Yeah. I would have been too rigid and like, they don't agree with X, Y, Z.
For sure.
I think internally I would have, what changed inside of you in that?
I think it was a couple of things. I think it was doing this thing for 10 years, succeeding massively, and then realizing that in the same time we saw thousands of people come to Christ, Sioux Falls got less Christian and the nuns rose. And I knew that not only was I killing it, you guys were killing it, and Central's like other churches in town were killing it, and we lost ground. Yeah. And I just went, I can't have as many lines or stipulations. I need everyone to know Jesus. I want everyone to know Jesus. That just became more important.
Oh, that'll preach. Okay. I don't know again the question in this. Any challenges for Jesus followers, Christians, and pastors in this area of this being uncommon?
I think even just Jesus followers fall into this. We get connected with people from our church, and one of the only reason that we see people jump back and forth between churches as often as
talk about that.
Yeah, because that happens all the time in Sioux Falls. It's like there's this population of people that just kind of go to whatever's happening at the time or whatever, which really hurts churches.
You can say anything.
Yeah, it really hurts churches because,
the shifting hurts churches.
The shifting hurts churches for a lot of reasons, one of which is they show up at my place and now I've got to build infrastructure to support it, and then they leave and now I'm stuck with the infrastructure in the bill and people are gone. And they're doing that to church after church after church. And that's just so unhealthy for the kingdom. But it also creates a mentality of like, evangelism becomes saving people from that other church.
Ugh.
Which is so gross, bro. So gross. Evangelism is about lost people finding Jesus, not about people I like from over there coming to my church. And the whole kingdom loses when we do that kind of stuff. The whole kingdom loses. And so, what I would just say is, what I would say to all Christian people, and this really is my soapbox right now.
You can say anything you want to say.
Yeah, I would just say, if lost people don't matter to you, you gotta wonder if you're a Christian.
Whoa. Right?
If the way you think about lost people in the world right now is they're on the wrong side of my political choices. They don't think like I do. They make me uncomfortable. They're making my life hard. They took away my Christian subculture. And you're not going, these are sheep without a shepherd.
Yeah.
These are people who will spend eternity separated from God if somebody doesn't do something. If we don't learn to take spiritual ownership and responsibility for the people around us, we're missing the whole boat. And so if you don't care about lost people around you every day, if they're just an inconvenience to you, you got to wonder if you're less a Christian and more a Pharisee.
I'll preach. Go back to, I'm in a group of Christians that moves from, I was at Ransom and now I'm at Embrace, and then I'm going to Central, and then I'm back to, what would you say to me?
I would say, stop thinking about church as if it was meant to be for you.
I love this, by the way.
Church is for the next lost person, right? Now, church is a place, it is the body of Christ, and it's a place where believers are supposed to go and get fed. And I get it, like sometimes you find a misalignment with church. That might happen once, that might happen twice. Absolutely, go find a different church. But what we typically do is go to a church as long as it feels good, as long as I'm enjoying it. And then when it gets hard, when I get convicted, when they do make a decision I don't like, I'm out, because there's so many good options, I can go somewhere else. And what I would say is, instead of saying I'm out, say, I disagree with this. How do I get more in? How do I talk to the pastor? How do I go, hey, I disagree with this. And I can be okay with that, but how do I help make this place better? Given who I am, how can I plug in? What am I not seeing? And I would just say, instead of leaning out when it's not about you anymore, lean in. If you go into a church and you go, I'm going to plug in, I'm going to go all in, and I'm going to make this the place where I do my mission on earth, that would help every church. Every church would get healthy. Every church would start to grow.
Yeah.
It's that we're going there with a consumer mindset, and we're missing our Ephesians 4 calling. Your pastors exist to equip you to be the church, not to do church for you.
Man, that's so good. I like, for me, one of the, I don't know how to address it. It seems almost like I attend three. There's more and more I'm seeing people who attend 2 churches on a Sunday.
Yes.
And I'm like, please stop. Like, serve at a service and attend a service and serve at one.
Yes.
Like start serving. Jesus isn't impressed with how many services you've gone to. But I want to go deeper. Man, serve in the kids area.
Yeah.
Serve on our first impressions. Do an outreach. Serve on a serve team. And I just see that and I'm like, oh my gosh. Now, for seasons in very particular situations, if you've just had your world rocked and you just but then even still, I'd probably say, hey, attend 2 services at Ransom. Don't attend 3 different churches.
I just finished a sermon today on Elijah that really talks about God let him rest. So Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18.
Yeah.
400 prophets of Baal, and he's like, is your God in the bathroom? Where's he at? And then the fire comes down. Then he gets threatened by Jezebel, and 1 Kings 19, he runs away and he's hiding in a cave. He's like, I'm the only one left. I'm alone. It's just me. God lets him rest. God lets him complain. God right sizes his perspective, but then the next thing he does is he gives him something to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would say, if you are in a place where you're hurting and you are rocked, you do need to take space, but also there is healing in your worst times in serving someone else.
That's good.
Who's actually got it worse than you, even in that season. I may have experienced a great loss, but even in this season,
that's good.
There's something better. So
one last question before we continue on. When I was early on, and someone would come from another church, this is gross, I'd be like, oh, awesome, we're so glad you're here. Now, I'm going to say the last 8 years, specifically the last 4 years, someone's like, yeah, we were at Ransom for a time, Central at a time. Now I'm just like, I'm like, okay, God, help me to love them and whatever. But if I have the opportunity, hey, have you had a chance to talk with Phill?
Right.
Hey, have you had a chance to talk? Like, I don't take this lightly. And now it's like, it sounds great, but it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
How do I leave a church well? Someone's leaving Embrace and they're coming to Ransom. What would you say is like, or vice versa, however you want to do it?
Yeah.
Like,
I actually had a board member leave, and it was the best leaving ever. This is a guy, I did his wedding, I baptized his kids, and he was just super, super involved. But he did honestly feel a call to step out and do something else. He called me immediately. We set up a coffee. He said, hey, bro, I love this place. I love everything about this place, and I will still send people to this place. But for our family, for this season, this is a call we're experiencing. And just the freedom for him to feel safe to say that, to be able to celebrate with him.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it is like, if God's calling you out to something else, that's okay, but let's celebrate it together. And, so when somebody comes from another church, my hope is that they've left well, but I can't assume that. And you're right. A lot of times you just say, did you talk to the pastor? But one question I always try to ask is, okay, I want you to talk to the pastor. I want you to leave well, but I don't need to know the history. What didn't you find there that you were looking for?
Whoa.
What was missing that would cause you to disconnect from a community and try to connect? And, if it's something superficial, like, well, we really just don't like the style of worship, or the time didn't work for us. I will very clearly say, I'm excited you're here. What we do may or may not work for you, and you may or may not stay. I would just say, find somewhere and plug in regardless of that stuff. Like, you're going to leave any church you don't commit your life to.
No.
Right? It's eventually, if you're going to church and it's about you, you're going to eventually, they're going to do something you don't like. So I just say, hey, if this is where you choose, I want to challenge you to so ingrain yourself in the mission of this place that leaving's not easy.
Yeah.
Because it sounds to me like leaving that last place was easy to you, and that tells me you weren't plugged in.
That's good. Last just couple of thoughts, and you can add any of this. It's been so cool because we've had people transition just in the last couple of years that were really, really near and dear to me, and they still are because they left so well.
That's right.
And now and it's so cool when that happens, because when you see them, it doesn't sting. Unless maybe there's a party that's like, gosh, you're such an Embrace person through and through. There's one specific family I'm thinking about who is an Embrace family, but I actually think that it was a right move. And it's so cool because, again, right away, early on, hey, we're starting to just consider this and think about this, and did it so well, and it's just so cool. What I get sad for, 2018 was a hard year at Embrace. What's so cool is the people who stayed and now see where we're at is like, isn't this amazing? It's like a great marriage where what you've been through with your spouse.
Yeah.
And then you're like, look at our children and look at like, oh my gosh, we're flourishing.
Yes.
And you get to see that faithfulness of God that you only get by staying. You only get because you've been married for 20 years. You only get because you've been in a church through its highs and its lows and its transitions. And for me, that's the part that's really cool for people.
Yeah, we just had a district meeting. Had our district superintendent come in, and we had to vote on something. And we don't do that a lot.
Yeah.
But we had to vote on something, and our vote. We had two votes. One of them was 100%. One of them was 99.9% because one Yahoo was like, I didn't believe the the no even worked, so I thought I'd try it. And I was like, oh crap, I voted no. I didn't want to vote no, but he was just a goofball, But we were essentially
That's too funny.
Unanimous. And then people started sharing testimonies and stories. And my district superintendent said, I've never been to a church meeting, A, with that strong a vote, and B, that couldn't help itself. It turned into a testimony time. That was the most fun I've had in a long time. That came because we do have that. Yes, we went through the hard stuff together.
It's great.
And so that's why I would, to attenders, I would say, if it's hard for you right now, you're thinking about leaving, pray about it. If God calls you to leave. But if you can stay, there is on the other side of that, like a celebration of we went through the hard together and look where we are now.
I love that.
To the pastor, I would say, again, it goes back to identity. Carrie Newhoff did a blog a while back that said, right post-COVID, it said, they're not your friends. And he talked about, hey, when people are leaving, they really love you. But for too many people, this is a transactional relationship. And you felt betrayed, abandoned, all those things. And, his point was not that they didn't care about you, but just don't lock your identity so much into those relationships that you feel personally betrayed when they leave. Because your role is to be their pastor, and someday somebody else will be their pastor, and that's okay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Okay, last church question. What are you excited about that you're seeing in the church, and what are you excited about that you're seeing in your church? And I just to kind of open floor brag on Ransom, just in general. Like, what are you excited about the church? What are you excited about in your church right now?
I mean, what I'm excited to see in the church is a spiritual hunger I haven't seen in a long time, particularly among youngest generations. To the youngest generation, the teens and post-college students right now, that young adult generation in the church is spiritually hungry, wants to know about what God wants for their life. They want to be supportive. They want to tithe. They want to figure please teach me the real Bible. Please teach me stuff. They're just so hungry. And that really encourages me. That encourages me. And, you live in the season you're in, and you start to think that's the new reality. And what it really is part of the ebb and flow of life and ministry. But I'm really excited about the spiritual fervor and hunger. We met with Ed Stetzer probably like 2021. And he talked about a pattern he sees in the world when you look at history and you look at the backside of a major pandemic, war, whatever. He said, you see the same pattern over and over. You see you see the culture shift to the left. You see marginal people fall away from the church. You see the church become more convictional than it was. You see people become desperate where there's no answers and reach out to the church, and they find a church that's more convictional than the church they would have found previously. Wow. And that's always the precursor to revival. So what encourages me most is I see that pattern playing out before my eyes, and I think we're on the cusp of revival. That's what I see.
Well, that's amazing.
And I'm super excited about that. What I'm excited about at Ransom Church is how that spiritual hunger is manifesting. We're seeing people start ministries that we are not in. We're just saying, yes, you can be unleashed. Do that. Go chase that. It starts and ends with you. We're not going to sustain it, but we'll support it, and please chase that thing. We're seeing people called into ministry, seeing people called into missions. We're seeing people called into church planting. We're seeing lay people just go, I don't know, I just started meeting with people, and now we've got all these people come to our house, and we're talking about Jesus and all that. And
it's
so
awesome.
We're seeing people take spiritual responsibility and ownership of their faith, and we're really pushing that. And that's just manifesting in so many ways.
That's so good. Things that I just respect so much about Ransom is the church. When Embrace is not a fit, Ransom is the church that I point people towards unapologetically. Like, hey, Adam, we're not, check out Ransom.
Yeah.
I feel like I see what the things that I love about it is there's a depth there, not a depth in I can quote this many verses and hold my hands up this long during worship, but a depth of pursuing the heart of Jesus and becoming more like him.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about Ransom. Other thing I love about Ransom is there's not the political, like, they fall in line with this party and whatever. Like, a lot of times it's hard to nail down. I'm like, you almost sound and look like Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is so refreshing. Listen, and I think our world's hungry for it.
If you chase Jesus, sometimes you're going to look conservative to the liberal. Sometimes you're going to look liberal to the conservatives, but you're always going to look like Jesus.
but you guys do that so well. Yeah. And then, like, just the heart for caring for the least of these, and like just like the non-sexy, like non-flashy ways of just being like Christ. Like, those are the things that I always, and just who you are, Phill, like just as a pastor and your team, it's just every time I see anything from Ransom, there's no ounce of like, look at us, blah, blah, blah. It's like, look at Jesus. Yeah. And we're trying to figure that out, and we're trying to push people towards him.
That's the goal.
It's awesome.
We're just a group of people journeying towards Jesus and inviting everybody else to come with us.
Yeah, it's awesome though. And good. So I thank God for just you and the church. That. Okay, so you got a book coming out, which is awesome. So excited about the book. Jesus Be the Center, the subtitle, Choosing Covenant Faith Over Airbrush Christianity. And this is a book, I'll just say it for you, you did not give up on. I mean, it would have been easy for you to just be like, hey, I tried. Lord, I'm done. So why is that, away from being an Enneagram 3 achiever, why this book? Where did it come from inside of you?
So, I mean, my personal soapbox pet peeve is just when we're following the Jesus we want instead of the Jesus who is. That's just a personal thing for me, but I never planned on writing a book. In fact, I fought it pretty hard. But like 2-minute story on how this all went down. Literally for years, people told me I should write, and I said no. And then for months, the Holy Spirit was nudging me, and I kept saying no. And I remember kind of like a line in the sand, like, no, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this. I did that. 5 minutes later, I got a text from a gal in my church, and she said, hey, I don't know what this means, but I was praying and the Holy Spirit told me to ask you if you're writing a book. And I went, okay, that's on the nose. But I still try to push it off. So I reached out to a publisher friend and said, hey, if I wrote this, what does that even look like? 10 minutes later, she calls me and said, I got your email, and I was drawn to my knees and started praying for you. I don't even know what this book is about. You need to write this book.
Yeah.
And that happened 3 or 4 or 5 times that day. And I still said, I'll sleep on it. I'm just that stubborn. And I woke up the next morning and I'm doing Duolingo. I'm Spanish, and it said, translate these sentences. We're writing a book this summer. Are you going to write a book? We should write a book together. And I was like, okay, Holy Spirit, I'll write the book. So I sat down, wrote, and started writing, and intro and chapter 1 happened in one sitting. And I went, I think I'm writing a book. So for me, again, everything I do, Adam, when it comes to faith, everything I do, my success is obedience. And I could not write this book and not be obedient. It would have been disobedient to not write this book. So whatever happens with it, I'm excited to have written it. And when I asked, what am I going to write it about? The Holy Spirit just gave me the whole layout of the book. I said, I know what this book is about. And I'm going to write on the subtitle, which is Choosing Covenant Faith Over Airbrush Christianity.
That's great. And it's got some zing to it. Like, just as far as like the storyline, are you willing to share just parts of that as whole?
I think the book is Jesus Be the Center, but the cover says Jesus Be the Centerfold, and then part of it's crossed off. And that metaphor comes from my exposure to pornography really, really young. And not just that it got its hooks on me, but how it got its hooks in me.
Yep.
And so it's not a book on pornography, but pornography became a perfect metaphor for how we're airbrushing Jesus. And so I just literally kind of lay myself bare out there and say, this was my journey with these things and these temptations, and I see that same pattern in our faith. We're defining the relationship.
Yep.
We're, choosing, am I going to swipe right or swipe left on God's will for my life? We're approaching this as if it's something I get into until it doesn't work for me anymore, instead of the covenant where I've said I'm in no matter what. And so I just am taking a real raw look at all the places in life where we've airbrushed Jesus into an image that we want to see, rather than just saying, I actually surrender and submit my life to you.
That's good. And like, just Phil, again, like just as someone who's read it, like your vulnerability, like first off, like just grabbed my soul. And then secondly, I just felt like it just drew me in, like as far as like, okay, where, like, are you willing to share two areas that we airbrush Jesus? Like,
sure.
Is there two specific ones that you're like, if I'm listening, I'm like, I still really don't understand what he's saying. What would be two areas that you'd be like?
Yeah, that's fair. So, I think we airbrush, one area we airbrush Jesus is in our expectations of what faith should look like, what life should look like. And so like Jesus is good as long as life is going well, but when life gets hard, he must not be real. He must have failed me. And so I'm out on this thing. We airbrush him when it comes to what he expects as far as our own holiness of life. Like, does he actually expect us to grow in our faith and change and become more and more like him? If that version of Jesus doesn't work for me, I can just paint a version of Jesus that he loves you no matter what. And that's true, but we focus on the grace part, but not the sin part,
That's great.
Another place I think we airbrush this whole thing is, I think that we read God's eternal promises about what heaven's going to be like, and what, and we forget that he says, in this world you'll have trouble. And we get mad at him because he's not keeping his eternal promises in our earthly space.
That's good.
But he never promised that. And so our faith wavers, goes up and down based on God's faithfulness, wavers and goes up and down based on, do I like how my life feels right now?
And I think the sad thing is you think that we're often selling a version of Jesus that doesn't exist.
Correct.
And it's like, it just that challenges me just even as a pastor, but it's like, no, we walk away from fake ones instead of like drawing closer to the real one, who's actually better and more wonderful and more faithful than we could ever imagine. And so it's like a double-edged sword of not good when we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Take away that you hope, like a person, like, hey, if you're going through this book's for you. And like, what's your take? Like, what's your hope for a person who's reading it?
Yeah, I really wrote it with two audiences in mind. I wrote it, the first audience is those who are, you're in the church, you're part of faith, and you found faith, like you hear these promises of who God is, and you found faith to kind of be lacking. Like, man, this is not measuring up to what I thought. There's got to be more than this.
Yep.
I would say there is.
Yep. And
this book is for you. It would open up your eyes to some choices you could make to go, I could go all in.
Yep.
And it would change everything. The other audience I wrote it with it in mind was people who are not believers, who would probably read it and go, yeah, the stuff he's pointing out, that's exactly my problem with the church.
Yes.
But this Jesus guy he's talking about, is he really like that? Is there really more? And might find faith because you went looking for reasons to be mad at church and actually found a Jesus who really is.
Yeah.
And so those were kind of my two target audiences in writing this book.
Phil, I could talk to you forever. Thanks for letting me ask the questions that I did in the front side. This book, I unapologetically want you to get a copy. So get a copy, buy it from your friend. I know when I've done books, people have bought it for their kids and their extended family. Like, do that. Where can I get where can I pre-order? Where can I get a copy?
No pre-orders right now. It will be available May 18th.
Awesome.
It will go live on Amazon Kindle, hardcover, softcover, on Amazon. We are doing a launch party at Ransom Church that day.
Awesome.
Where we're just going to be like hanging out and giving the book away and just, doing all that and having a lot of fun. Thank you. I mean, I want to thank you because this is, you ended up actually writing the foreword for this book, which you're too humble to mention, but I wanted to mention because it's just one more example of the thing we've been talking about this whole time, which is what happens when the barriers come down and we just go, can we together use the influence God gave us for the sake of the kingdom?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I hope a lot of people read. I hope a lot of people find Jesus. I hope a lot of people find the real Jesus.
Thank you, Phill and Adam, for that lovely conversation. Adam, anyone else you want to thank?
Yeah, I just need to say it again. Phill,
I almost called you Phill.
That's okay. Phill, I go by
you
Phill
take it.
sometimes. No, actually, Phill, I respect you so much, and it was such a joy to have you on the podcast. I love Ransom, and so just thank you so much for being on the podcast. More than that, thanks for being my friend. Our partners, Vern ID Mitsubishi, go get an Outlander through them. I love it. Do that. Go visit vernid.com, and then the International Justice Mission, which is just amazing. IJM.org. That's all I know. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have an awesome rest of your week.
Thank you, guys.